Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games, back with another cool video for you today. It has nothing to do with arcade games or pinball machines or jukeboxes. I am at my house, and in my house, right by the foyer, I have this old phonograph, and I've been wanting to film a video of this for a long time because it's so cool, and I thought today would be a good day because I'm going to do not a update, but we're going to mess with it here in a minute. I'll show you what we're going to get into. I need to work on it very slightly though. And I always wanted to film this thing and make a video so that people could see it and so I could show it off a little bit. This is a Brunswick phonograph. I believe it's a Model 7, but I don't know because it's so old it doesn't have a tag on it. And we'll talk about that in a minute too. But this is likely from about 1918, made by the Brunswick company. And it is if you don't know what a phonograph is, it plays old records, 78s, without any power. It has a crank on the side to play it. This is the old-timey record players, the very first type. We were buying a couple, we bought a jukebox and an arcade game from a gentleman a few years back, and he had this in his garage. And he said it was his grandfather's. He had a bunch of records with it, and it didn't work. And he told me that if I would promise him that I would fix it, that he'd give it to me. And I love crap like this. I am a sucker for it, an absolute sucker. So I told him, you know what, buddy? Of course I'll fix it. You give it to me and I'll fix it. And so a couple years ago, I brought this home, and it had the usual thing that these have. The spring was acting up a little bit. There's a big spring inside of them, inside of a can, and whenever you turn the crank on the side, it winds the spring up. Well, the spring had came loose from the inside of the can. I took the whole thing apart, cleaned up the grease a little bit, attached it back to the can like it was supposed to be. There was a little eye that attaches to a little hook inside the can, and the eye was bent a little bit. Bent the spring back out, needed to be, wound it back up, put it all back together, and it works fine. So I've messed with it over the years and adjusted the speed and all that kind of stuff, and I've got it working pretty good. It's been sitting here for a while, but I figured I would film a video of it today. And the reason that I'm filming it today is because the grill on the front of it is the wrong grill. Whenever we got it, it didn't have the grill. And I found one on eBay. This is a Brunswick. I found one. I think that's off of a Victrola or Victor. I don't have one of those. So. But the grill was the same size, so I bought it. It fit in the machine, but it is not the right one. But I believe I may have, after all of these years, found the right one. So we're going to make it back how it used to be 100 years ago. Today, maybe. We'll see here in a minute. And then I'm also going to play it a little bit so you can see what these things sound like. Now, the value of this thing is not really that much. It's not all that valuable. Most of them aren't. There may be some that are, but this one, if we put it in our store, we might get $300 or $400 out of it, maybe, but I wouldn't want to sell it. I really like it. So we're going to play it, and we'll mess around with it a little bit, and I'll show you everything that I can get to. I don't want to take the spring and everything out, but I'll show you what I can on it. So I like this one because it's kind of timeless. Like some of them are real fancy, and they have like curves and lots of kind of ornamentation. Those ones, they look real kind of Victorian because they're from the teens in the 1920s. So they've got this kind of old-timey look to them. I don't really like that as much as I like this one. This is probably like the cheapest upright model that they made at the time. It's just square. There's not much ornamentation to it at all. Not much decoration. Just has a simple little door on the front of it. So it probably, out of all the ones that you could buy from Brunswick, which were kind of high-end machines, I believe. I may be wrong about that, but they were pretty nice. They weren't as nice as the Victrolas, but they were pretty nice. This would have been like the cheapest one. So what was once it kind of its what held it back is now what I like about it, because since it's the cheap one, it's not that ornamental, and it has a kind of a timeless look, you know, because everything's square and it kind of, I mean, it's old, but it, you know, whenever you see that, yeah, I could see that in somebody's house. It's in my house. So it's not in the greatest shape, but it's nice and solid. There's a little bit of paint on the side of it there. You can see on the top, there's a little bit of paint on it. I don't know if this is considered like a mahogany finish, right? So it was a lot dirtier whenever I got it. And what you can clean up old wood and old furniture with is Murphy oil soap. You put a little, safely cleans wood. Put a little bit of that on a rag, let it sit for a little bit, and it will clean it up. What was the other stuff I used? There was like a wax I used too. I don't know if it's still sitting here. I've got all my records here too. Let's see if the wax is still here. No. There was some other stuff I was using on it too, but you put it on, let it sit for a little bit, and wipe it off, and it gets lighter and lighter and lighter as all of this 100 years of dirt comes off of it. But it's looking pretty good. So on the side you have a crank that literally winds up a spring as you turn it. Right? And then back here you have a knob, which if you turn it one way it's loud, you turn it the other way it's quiet. I'll show you how that works here in a minute. And then down here on the front, you just have this little door, right? And whenever I got this, it had gotten wet, and the laminate had separated a little bit. So I took it to the shop, and we put some glue on it and clamped it back together and got it nice and solid again. There is a little spot down here where it had chipped off, and we put a little tiny bit of stain on it. I went and got some stain that matched it, put a little bit of stain on it to hide it a little bit. And those are the original hinges, but this knob has been replaced. I found some pictures of some Model 7s, and they had a knob kind of like this, so I bought one of these at Lowe's. It's the wrong knob, but it looks about right. And so inside it has these little shelves. There's 6 shelves that you can put the records on, and it only plays 78s, because back then that's how it was all done. There weren't any 33s or 45s, just 78s. So the lid lifts up, and when it does, there's a little latch over there that catches. Okay, and it has the nameplate back here on the back, like all Brunswicks do. Right. Now on most of the Brunswicks there is a little medallion. I think it's either right here or right here. And it'll have a serial number, and it'll say the model number. This one doesn't have it because it's one of the earlier ones. Now, that doesn't mean it's, like I said, it's not super valuable or anything, but it was probably 1917, 1918. I mean, it's pretty early. Or it would have that medallion on it. If the thing is from the 20s, you'll see that medallion. And there's no nail holes or anything where there used to be one. It's just not on here. And it's common knowledge that the early ones didn't have the medallion. So, but I believe it's a Model 7. If it's not a Model 7, the Model 7s look just like this, with the exception of the grill, which we'll look at here in a minute. So the way it works is there is a tone arm, a reproducer they call it, with a needle. You hear that? I'm just tapping the needle, right? There is no plug. I mean, it's not plugged in. There's no electricity. And so the sound travels through this steel needle through the reproducer, through the arm, which is hollow, down through here, into a wood horn that is behind this grill. We'll look at it in a minute. And so whenever you, over here is a speed control. I know it's a little dark, but you'll get the idea. And you can get new felt for this and everything, but this, you know, it's a little bit dirty, but it's fine, so I didn't mess with it. And you crank her up, and you can turn it about 50 times. And it just slowly unwinds the crank and plays the record. Now there is a little brake right here. So you can push that, put your record on, put your needle down. I usually start it and then put the needle down while it's running. There's also a setup over here where this little lever you can move so that as it goes through, when it gets to the end of the record, the lever hits that lever, which is attached to the brake, and will stop the thing. Fairly clever. But this is their Altona reproducer. So back in the day, there were about 3 different ways of making records. And I'm not an expert on this, so some of you guys that are, and girls that are audiophiles will know more about it than me. But basically, they cut the records, they cut the actual, they weren't really vinyl, I guess they were lacquer, I don't know what they were made of. They cut the actual platters, we'll say platters. They cut the actual platters different ways, and so they had to be played different ways. So most of them, the ones that kind of ended up being the go-to that you see on 33s and stuff, were basically you drag a stylus, a needle, through the grooves. But they also had other ones that were cut and needed to be played a different way. So this reproducer could play 3 different types of records because it could rotate. So some of them you played flat like that, and there is a little ball of a stylus that will lay down on certain types of records, right? And then some of them, it had a like the Edison records, you needed a diamond needle to play. But most of them, you played with one of these styluses. So let me show you how this is done. There's a little set screw here, a little thumb screw, and you pull the needle out. Now these things are, let's see here. It's just a little, looks like a sewing needle. Probably can't get focus on that on my phone here. It's just a little needle, right? Now, so you're supposed to change this after every record. So you take it out, there's a little can back here, you can drop it in, right? And then I've got 2 or 3 different types. Just for today, I'm going to get the biggest one. So they have 3 different thicknesses, right? So the thickest one is the loudest one. So we're going to load it back in there, if I can do all this one-handed. Okay, so we've got a new needle in it. Let's look at the cone. So this, like I said, this little door, this little grill, I'm trying not to break it because this thing's old too. It's just for a different model. This little grill I bought on eBay a couple of years ago, and it's the wrong one. It's for a Victrola, and you can see that the cloth, that's the original cloth, and it's all falling apart, right? So so we don't need that anymore. So let's put that up. Now, I bought a long time ago new cloth for it, but I never installed it because I knew that was the wrong grill. It's not even the right color. So some of these later were of the Brunswicks were round. You can see how this one is square, has a square horn, and you can just see how that is so loud. So I'm just rubbing the needle. Pretty wild, right? So if I can get it to focus. Focus. Basically, I have found, I believe, the correct grill for it. So let me grab it real quick. Okay, so I was messing around on eBay. I've been looking for this thing for years, right? And I found this, and it just came in today. The guy packed it very well between foam and with bubble wrap. He did me right on that. Believe you me. And it appears to have made it here in one piece. It's a kind of delicate little thin piece of wood. Right? I'm trying to do all this with one hand. You know, it's my house. I guess I can make a big mess if I want. Okay. So let's see what 100-year-old. Now, is that not the most beautiful thing you've ever seen? Look at that. And look, it's got the original, or what appears to be, the original grill cloth still on it. Wow. So I don't know which way it goes, but I think, wow, perfect. So there's a little thin edge there. That probably goes in that little groove there. This side goes. That side doesn't. I wonder if it's upside down. Hear any cracking. I don't want to hear any wood moving around. I wonder if something is stuck in the channel. Or if I just don't know what I'm doing. All right, I got it in there. There's two slots. If you put it back too far, it won't go all the way up, but there's another little slot closer to the front. So you can see it actually fits pretty good. And it's the exact color. I think that's probably the exact grill that was on this exact machine. We found it after 100 freaking years. It was in Florida the whole time. Who knew? And it wasn't even that expensive. It was 30 bucks. Perfect. Looks a lot better. Look at that. Wow. Looks even better than it did. Of course, the other one was, you know. See how this one's a little fancier? It's like got the rounded top and everything, but that makes it look a little worse. Of course, the cloth falling off doesn't help, but it made it look a little more old-fashioned. But that one, you know what I mean? Because it was the cheaper one back in the day, it looks better 100 years later. Wow, that really looks great. Okay, so you know what we need to do now? We got to play it, right? Let's see if she's going to work. So I got a bunch of records in here. I put my favorite one right here on the top shelf. This is my top shelf record, okay? Now, I don't know anything about this, so don't judge me, people. I just like how it sounds, okay? So this is an old Columbia record. I don't know how old it is. It's Raymond Scott and his new orchestra. We're going to play a couple of them. So this is the theme song of Pretty Little Petticoat, which I guess was a radio show or something. I don't know. I don't know, people. I'm much younger than this thing. But this is a good one. I like this one. If I can make it do its thing. I don't have anything to set anything on. I'm doing it all with one hand here. And then the B side is, well, it doesn't like the focus today. This theme song from Sarah Ribbon, whatever. I think maybe it might have been a movie, maybe, I don't know. But we're going to play the theme song from Pretty Little Petticoat. I don't know, people. Don't ask me. I want it to focus, though, so that you can see just how cool this is, right? So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to put the brake on. And then I'm going to wind this sucker up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The brake's trying to go. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, I'm getting tired. 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. It went about 52 times. I think it'll usually go about 50, but usually I guess I'm holding the brake with the other hand. Okay, so I'm going to start it, and then I'm going to turn the needle around and try to put it on the first groove. And then we're going to listen to it with the lid down, and then I will turn the volume knob so you can hear, you can kind of get the vibe of the two different volumes. But the reason I like this song is because I like the instruments and stuff. It just sounds awesome. Okay, so we take the brake off. It'll start going. One winding like I just did is enough usually to play 2 records. So we turn the thing around. We got our new needle on it. Drop it right at the beginning. Whoa.